He's the self-made millionaire that's made it his mission to teach over 250,000 people the financial skills you should have learnt at school. Jamie McIntyre is taking your calls and sharing invaluable money skills, from internet businesses to property investments, share trading to empowering women and youth with market smarts. Take advantage of his worldwide experience and get your questions ready for Jamie McIntyre tonight on Your Money, Your Call on Australia's Business Channel.
On Australia's Business Channel. Welcome to Your Money, Your Call.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining me for tonight's edition of Your Money, Your Call. I'm Nina May. Well, joining us for the first time this evening is Jamie McIntyre, who's the CEO and founder of 21st Century Education. Jamie is an entrepreneur, investor, author and self-made millionaire who's made it his mission to teach people financial skills that he believes should have been taught in school. Be interested to find out what they are.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome along. As Nigel said, my name's Jamie McIntyre. Now, most of you, I believe, I had the chance to meet, or who's a 21st Century member in the room? Well, 90% of you, and fantastic. Welcome along today. This is a program that I'm passionate about teaching. It's a program I only ever delivered once, and that was about 4 years ago. And we decided to redo the program, update it, and also bring in today several other speakers to share their different experiences. It's probably like any career or anything that everyone has their different angle on it, and different personalities will come through. So today I'm excited for you. This is a skill that we're going to be talking about that I think is probably one of the most valuable skills any individual can have in our life that we have in a material existence to be able to excel. And it's also one of those skills that most people in society have the greatest fear around. You may have heard the story when they've done a survey before, what would people rather do? Would they rather public speak or die? And most people, when they complete that survey, have actually ticked they'd rather die than public speak. So I guess that means if you're at a funeral, they'd rather be in the coffin than deliver the eulogy. But so the idea of public speaking really does put a lot of people in a state of fear, and as a result, the majority of people in society will say they hate the idea of having to public speak. However, and who can relate to that, by the way? Okay, somebody. And however, if you can develop the skill to overcome that, where you can enjoy public speaking and be good at it, then you have what we call, you might want to jot this down, you have what we call a competitive advantage. You have a significant advantage over the rest of the marketplace, whether that's your co-workers, the people in your industry that you work with, or pretty much anyone, because it's a rare skill. And that's what we're going to look at today. How do you go about developing that competitive advantage? So what will you learn today? There's numerous reasons why you might want to public speak. Some of you in the room may wish to become public speakers. In other words, develop a brand new career where you get the opportunity to travel the country, travel the world, and become a keynote speaker and deliver presentations around the world. That may appeal to some people. Does that appeal to anyone in the room? A few people? Budding public speakers out there. And as a lifestyle and as a career, I mean, it's one of my many careers that I've had, and it's a very enjoyable career. You have the opportunity to impact, reach a lot of people, and meet interesting people. And so some people, that's what your goal is. Others of you in the room, maybe just in a situation where you're in business or you work for a company, and you know that if you could improve your public speaking ability, that it would improve your ability to get a promotion or improve your ability where you work to be able to expand and be more effective at what you do, whether it's in small presentations or one-on-one presentations, whether it's in board meetings, etc. If you're in the corporate world, those who can speak in public certainly have an advantage. And if you only make it to the top of the corporate ladder, you're going to need some form of public speaking training. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, others of you may be entrepreneurs and realize that if you can communicate more effectively and be a public speaker, you would be able to be more effective at what you do. Because there's no point having a great idea or concept if it's locked inside your head and no one knows about it. Is that true? The ability to articulate and communicate an idea, concept, a product or service to someone else so they can actually understand what you're talking about is invaluable in our society. And who would agree with that? So, and no doubt that's why you're here today. So, and some of you for a combination of those reasons. True? So what I want to share with you, this program was really designed differently to, say, a typical public speaking program. Now, I've got to be honest, I've never been to a typical public speaking program. I was never formally trained as a public speaker, and my goal today is not to, my goal really today is to teach you to do something different. I believe public speakers pretty much a dime a dozen. There's a lot of people, you can go to a lot of courses to learn how to be a public speaker. Great skill. However, I really want to impart to you today and challenge you that we want to go this step further. What we want to do is become outstanding communicators. Because outstanding communicators that can engage and challenge people to think are rare, where public speakers are a dime a dozen. If you can develop that ability where you can engage an audience, you can communicate and reach people, then you will separate yourself not only from those that can't public speak, the majority of people in society, but you'll separate yourself from the public speakers that are out there, and you'll go to that next level and be someone that can really make a difference. And who would be excited if you could learn those skills today? So that's what I want to share with you. So, and when I say that with for myself, no formal public speaking training, I was not someone that went to Toastmasters and things like that, and I have no issues with those, and they do teach people valuable skills of public speaking, but we want to go beyond that. And so what I'm going to teach you is the shortcut to anything. And whether you want to learn how to be a share investor, a property investor, an entrepreneur, successful parent, whatever it is, whatever endeavor, and I've shared this with many of you if you read my book and watched the DVDs, the shortcut to any success in anything is to find someone that's produced the result you want, and then what do we do? Copy effectively. Okay, now we don't call it copying, we call it modeling. Okay, in other words, model success. Find someone that's effective at doing something and then model what they do. That's a far superior way to be effective at something. And the challenge with most people is that they're modeling people that are not successful. In our everyday life, we are modeling others. So often you've heard the phrase that be careful who you hang around, because you'll model their behaviors. You'll model what they do. So for myself, I was able to, my whole speaking career started by accident, and it was all come about modeling, which I'll share with you the story today. So before we get into some of this, I just want to challenge you to today is to keep an open mind, because what we're going to go through is we're going to dispel a few myths. So I want to challenge you to keep an open mind, certainly take lots of notes today, because we're going to look at things quite differently. And my outcome for the end of the day is that you'll be able to walk out of here. What I'm going to share with you today, out of many things, is one of I think the most valuable thing you'll learn today is I'm actually going to give you the syntax and effectively the blueprint of how to go from the beginning, or even before you start a presentation, to all the way through how to create and deliver a presentation step by step, the actual blueprint. And you can walk out of here today with that blueprint, and you, just by using that, you'll be 10 times more effective at the ability to, you'll be able to deliver tomorrow, if you wanted to, a presentation based around that blueprint. Because that blueprint's been so invaluable to me. I learnt that blueprint. It wasn't a blueprint, I created it myself. I was fortunate enough to be trained and taught that blueprint by a gentleman I'm sure some of you will be familiar with, and that's a gentleman named Anthony Robbins. Who's familiar with Tony Robbins? And some would say he's probably one of the most powerful communicators on the planet. He's certainly been incredibly successful. He's educated now millions and millions of people worldwide, so he would certainly be held in high regard as someone that's a very effective communicator. And I was fortunate many years ago, well before I even thought about a career as a public speaker, to be trained in a small room, small environment, and taught Tony's actual syntax and blueprint of how he created the presentation. And when I first had to do a presentation many years later, I didn't know how to do it. So I thought, what do you do if you have to do a presentation, you have to do anything, you find a model. So I went back and I had dug out those notes and had that model, had that blueprint. And out of that, I was able to create my first presentation. Okay? And that was the blueprint which I've used ever since. So I'm going to walk you through that today, and I think that is one of the most valuable skills you can get, because it's not just information, but an actual blueprint you can walk away with and design and create a presentation around it. Making sense? So before we get into it, I want to challenge you on a couple of things. Is some people have the belief system that some people are born public speakers. Who's heard that before? It's all right for some people to say they're just born that way. Okay, some people have the gift of the gab. Is that true? You've heard that expression before. And so there's these beliefs that people believe that people are born natural speakers. Okay. Now, if you look at someone like President-elect Obama, you'd probably go, yeah, that's true. He's someone that naturally must have been born as a natural gift to the gab. True? But I doubt that he was. I don't think when he was born there, he had a stamp on his backside as a little baby that you're going to be an outstanding communicator. I would dare say he had to learn those skills. If you read part of his history and part of his story, he wasn't anything, stand out at school or things like that. They never thought, oh, this guy is a great communicator at school. What I'm suggesting to you is this. Most of the skills are learnt. Nearly all the skills are learnt. So as far as being a public speaker, the skills are learnt skills. Anthony Robbins, he learnt those skills. Obama, he's learnt those skills. Does it make sense? So it doesn't matter. Also, the other belief is this. Quite ironically, I find it doesn't be the case in all cases, but I found this to be true as well. People that are often one-on-one, that are quite extrovert, will often, when it comes to public speaking, be quite shy. People that are quite shy, personality, one-on-one, when it comes to public speaking, will often be more effective. It's interesting, isn't it? For myself, I was always a shy personality. One-on-one, I wouldn't talk that much. I often joke when I'm off stage, I don't talk to anyone. Okay. When you go into family dues and things like that, you're asked to be MC and things like that. I always joke, like, I don't really like speaking in public, unless I'm paid, of course. So, but in other words, I've met many people, and I know this to be true, out of colleagues and friends and acquaintances you meet, that one-on-one, like they're the life of the party. They're extroverts. But put them in front of a microphone and they freeze. They're often, even though they have the ability, everyone has the ability to speak. Is that true? Pretty much. Most of us are fortunate we're able to speak, so everyone actually has the ability. And but when the fear comes in, the idea of speaking in public, they'll freeze. And who can relate to that fear? Okay, so we're going to look at how we overcome that today as well. How do you overcome that fear? How do you be prepared? How do you be relaxed? How do you be authentic? How to be you and expressed? And I'll give you a big clue. Who's ever been passionate about something? Who's ever been passionate about something? A product, a service, or just something that's happened, and you can't help yourself but tell your friends about it. Is it true? And you are actually passionate, and you're in state, and you're excited, and you tell the world about it. Correct? You're actually public speaking. So everyone has actually spoken in public. So the idea of belief system people have, I can't speak in public, well, it's not actually true. They actually can, and they have. It's just the belief system they create, they can't do it because they link pain to the idea, and the greatest fear, the pain that comes from the greatest fear is the fear of what do you think? Fear of failure, fear of what people think. What's the real fear behind all that? The fear of rejection or the fear of embarrassment. Is it true? Most people, they run through their head what's stopping them, the idea is public speaking, where they go, can't do that. In their little head, their subconscious mind is going, the fear of embarrassment, the fear of rejection. True? That's the biggest thing that will stop people because they focus on that fear. Okay? Yeah, ironically, the career as a public speaker, if you wanted to develop that career, or just the ability to be able to communicate and articulate to other people in an effective manner in public, is probably one of the most rewarding careers you could have. Because it's not actually fearful, it's not actually linking pain to it, it actually can be very pleasurable. You understand that you can have the ability to really reach people, have a very fulfilling career. And whatever you do, just with this skill, it's massive pleasure rather than pain. And just getting people to understand that. Okay? So I challenge you to keep an open mind, look at your belief systems that may hold you back, and we'll dispel some of those. Take lots of notes today, and then I'm sure you will get tremendous value out of that. Not just from what I'm going to teach you, but rather than just my style or my delivery that's worked well for me as a presenter, we're going to bring on two experts after lunch. One is Peter Bland. Some of you may have had a chance to hear from Peter. And he'll share his syntax, his blueprint of how he goes about doing that. And also we have a guest speaker all the way out from the United States, Matt Browning, and he'll be teaching you after that this afternoon as well. So you're actually going to get three experts sharing with you their different strategies, the way to go about doing that. And then I'll also, in my presentation before we finish up at lunchtime, I will also go into detail as far as the different models of being a speaker. If you want to be a public speaker, there's different models that go about doing that, different ways to earn an income. Okay, very different ways, and how the best ways to go about doing that. Sound good? So before we get started, what gives me the right to speak on subjects such as how to be a public speaker or a communicator, And I'll be very upfront. As I said, I haven't done formal training to be a public speaker, but I don't believe you need to. I believe you need to model excellence and develop a blueprint, and then get out there and take action. And over time, practice makes perfect, as you see. You'll improve what you do. The reason most people are not effective public speakers is because they've never been delivered a blueprint to follow, and they've actually taken action and actually practice. It's like anything. If I went into the career that you do today, for you it might be a piece of cake what you do. But when you first started that career, it was quite difficult because you weren't sure what to do. But after you did it over and over again, it becomes unconscious competence. In other words, it just naturally happens. So for myself, I ended up as a public speaker as one of my careers really by accident. It certainly wasn't planned that way. I didn't anticipate that. I was doing something completely different. And many years ago, as I said, I had the opportunity to be trained by Anthony Robbins in how to public speak, but I was really just doing it for the sake of interesting notes. I didn't plan that as a career. And it was several years later where I'd been attending particular other seminar programs on my journey of personal development, and there was a need for a support type group where once a month, like-minded people that had been to many personal development seminars would like to catch up once a month, and we'd bring in a guest speaker, etc., and keep people motivated effectively. And there was about 3 of us that organised this group, and about 100 people showed up, and no one bothered to organise a speaker. So they said, "Who's going to speak?" And they all pointed at me. And this is the day before. Okay, so I'm like, why do I get picked on? Why do I have to do? I don't know how to public speak. So I went into a state of panic and fear and think, my God, how do you do this? And then I remembered, well, I had the syntax. I dug out old notes and what I learned from Anthony Robbins several years before was the blueprint of how to go about being a presenter. And I created the presentation around that. And I faced my fears and I delivered it. And I can't say it was an outstanding presentation, etc., but it was effective to some degree. And out of that, it was enough to plant a seed to say, you know what, this is actually a lot of fun. I enjoyed this, and I could see myself doing more of this. And out of that, being thrown in the deep end, so to speak, eventually led to a career where I've had the opportunity to educate in excess of 250,000 people now around Australia, New Zealand, overseas as well. So, and over the last 8 or 9 years, and it's been a very rewarding career as part of what I do. It's also as an entrepreneur, it's by developing these skills, it's enabled me to be far more effective as an entrepreneur, whether that's presenting in board meetings, whether it's presenting to potential clients, whether it's presenting to potential joint venture partners, whether it's just simple negotiations, ability to influence others, to share your ideas and concepts in a way that they grasp and understand them, and you can develop working relationships. So in that essence, it's probably been more valuable. And as far as a financial return, just the ability to develop the influential skills that you develop by being a speaker has been an immense value to me. Does that make sense? So I've been fortunate enough now also, not only as a public speaker to learn how to do it myself, I've also helped many other people that wanted to become public speakers and train and develop and mentor those people into outstanding careers. And I would probably guess off the top of my hat, there's probably been at least over half a dozen individuals that now earn in excess of $1 million a year just part-time from their speaking activities, that were individuals that I recognize as talent for what they did, not as a speaker, but they had raw talent for whatever their expertise was in. And I've said to them, I said, that expertise, many people would love to learn about that. And as a result, I've had to train them and teach them how to become presenters. And then after a while, once someone gets started with something, they just become better and better at that. So I have been able to impart that knowledge in a way to be able to build many successful careers of public speakers as well. Does that make sense? So I guess that's what gives me the right to speak on these subjects. And it's something that is such a valuable skill, and it's not necessarily that hard. Many people think it's, you think, why do the majority of people unable to public speak? Well, those who develop the skill and put the effort into it and actually get out there and face your fear are the ones that get rewarded because you have such a significant competitive advantage to the rest of society that doesn't have it. Okay, and I'm sure that's what you recognize already. So here's what I want you to do very quickly. There is 4 key skills that I've identified in the 21st century that are critical to excelling in today's rapidly changing world. And those 4 key skills are, 1 is the ability, obviously, to communicate. And that's what we're here today, is to learn how to become outstanding communicators, not just public speakers. So the ability to communicate. Because the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your communication. So if you're saying, I want to improve my life, We're going to go to work on how to improve our communication. So that's one of the top 4 skills. The other 3, number 2 skill, and not in any particular order, is the ability to negotiate. The ability to negotiate with others. You think about in any career you go into, those in society that can negotiate effectively will achieve a greater result. True? The other 3rd thing is the ability to market. The ability to market. In other words, marketing skills. Not necessarily a marketing degree you'd learn, a PhD in marketing at university. I'm talking real life practical skills that you can market, whether in business or yourself, you are in business effectively, and you work for a company. So real life practical marketing skills. And actually, if you say, what's one skill that's going to generate me the most income, then marketing combined with communication is probably the 2 most valuable skills on the planet. If you develop effective marketing skills and you develop the ability to be an outstanding communicator, put those 2 skills together, and if you want to earn a 6-figure income or even a 7-figure income, a 7-figure income being in excess of $1 million a year, then those are the 2 skills that you definitely will need to have. Make sense? So that's exciting because those skills, once again, are learnt skills. They're available for people to learn. And the 4th key skill, of the 4 key skills, is the ability to solve problems. Creative thinking. The ability to be a creative thinker, which is effectively solving problems. Those 4 key skills. You go to work and master those skills, then you'll accelerate your income upwards. But in particular today, we're focused on the communication skill. Tomorrow, for those who are coming back tomorrow, we have a sales and marketing program, which I'll be delivering, and several guest speakers, where we'll focus on the marketing skills. Okay, so you can learn those as well. So does it make sense? So here's what I want you to do. On a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being you are an outstanding communicator, an outstanding negotiator, 0 being bloody hopeless. Okay, rate yourself very quickly on each of those 4 key skills, starting with communication. 0 to 10, be honest with yourself right now. Where are you on a scale of 0 to 10? Hopeless, 10, outstanding, somewhere in between. Just be honest with yourself. And do that for each of those 4 key skills. 0 to 10. Now, if you say you're a 10 already in communication, then the challenge with that, you may be outstanding already, but the challenge with that is how you're going to improve what you are. Okay, so be honest with yourself. Some of you might say, I'm negative. Okay, we don't be too hard on yourself. But just finding out wherever you are, because then we're going to set a goal and say, okay, well, if you're a 5 right now in your ability to communicate, if you can get yourself to a 7, what will that take and what will that mean in the benefit of your career? The benefit of in your relationship, so to speak, if you can communicate better. What about an 8? What about a 9? What's it going to take? So we just be clear where we're at and what's required to improve that. Do you realize there's an exam later today? That exam is that everyone has to public speak before you leave. Everyone okay with that? Some of you are excited. Most of you stopped breathing. So I'm only joking. So maybe not. So jot this down. All outstanding communicators do 2 things. If this is all you learn today, then this will be invaluable for you. Outstanding communicators do 2 things. 1, what they do is they share stories. You look at any effective presentation you've been to, they will share stories about themselves and stories about other people. Why? As humans, we love stories. We grew up with the fairy tales, etc. We love reading books because we relate through other stories of other people's lives. We relate to ourselves. So all great, outstanding communicators will share stories. They'll often share stories about their own life so the audience can relate to them. And by sharing those stories, or third-party stories, they can relate to the audience. They can also pass on a message through that story, as opposed to, you look at a communication that's not effective. Who's ever been told what to do? Who's been told what to do before? Okay, and you don't enjoy it. Is that true? No one likes being told what to do. Did you know when you're a child that your parents told you what to do? Okay, and then when you went to school, the teachers told you what to do. Then when you left school, you got a job and your boss told you what to do. Then you got married and then your spouse told you what to do, effectively. So people have been, even subconsciously, it's like so sick of being told what to do. So if you ever try to communicate or influence someone by saying, you should do this, you should do that, Why don't you do this? How effective is it? If you don't know, try it sometime. Okay? Try it on your spouse, try it on your kids. It's just not effective. Often with kids, it's easy to tell them the opposite. Okay? Tell them not to do something that you want them to do, and they'll do it. Okay? Because we don't like to be told. So effective way as a communicator, whether it's just one-on-one communication, is sharing third-party stories. Because in that third-party story, you can share a message about someone else, and it's not telling someone what to do, but the other person will be able to hear that story and go, that makes sense. Okay? Or the communication can be in a format of not being attached rather than telling people what to do. If you were talking to children, for instance, I remember an example here in Melbourne some years ago. My sister has 5 children, and I love children. I don't have children yet, but my sister has 5 children, so that's enough for me to catch up and get my dose of having children for a while. And gorgeous children, and I was taking them to the swimming pool. I live here part of the year, just across the road here in Melbourne. I live in Sydney most of the other time. And indoor pool, and about a 5-year-old child and a 3-year-old daughter at the time she had. And they were running around the pool, indoor pool where it's all wet, etc. And I said, don't run around the pool. Okay. And how long did kids pay attention to that for? Because kids are having fun. They're focused on the pleasure running around the pool, etc., having fun. So they didn't listen to that. And then I thought, hang on a minute, I'm meant to be an outstanding communicator. That's not a very effective way to communicate even to children, because if you tell them don't do something, then it's not usually effective. So I simply changed my communication to saying, you know what? It's up to you what you do. You can run around the pool if you wish. However, what's going to happen if you slip and fall over on those hard tiles and concrete? It's up to you. You can run around all you like, but if you fall over and hurt yourself, how much immense pain will you feel? Of course, it's up to you. But you see what I'm doing? By changing the communication to be unattached to the outcome. When you're unattached to the outcome, it's far more effective. And as a result, they thought about that for a moment, and they decided themselves to stop running around the pool. Is it making sense? Did they now own that decision? They owned that decision. The other way I could have done that was share a third-party story about other kids that were running around the pool and they're having fun, but they didn't realize it was dangerous and fell over, and they really hurt themselves and started crying and wrecked their whole day, and as a result they missed out on going to the movies and having the ice cream or whatever it is. And you can see now how that third-party story, you're reaching a different communication without telling people don't do something. And that's the value of stories. The other thing that all outstanding communicators do, the second thing they do, so other than share stories, is the second most important thing they do, jot this down, is that they ask questions. Share stories and ask questions. So your presentation, whatever it is, should be predominantly those two things. Asking questions. Why do they ask questions? Is because they want to engage the audience. If you've ever been to a lecture before, so there's a difference between a lecture or even a Toastmasters where someone is effectively trained to present and just present some information. That's very different to communication. Communication is a two-way thing. So communicators ask questions of the audience because it engages people to think. And your role as a communicator is to engage people. Your role is to challenge people to think. So it creates an impact. Otherwise, it's just information. We've all been to, if you've been to a university lecture or something like that, so where people just stand there and read printed notes. How exciting is that as an audience? How long do you last? Because you start tuning out. So really, it's really a waste of time. Okay? Or if you go to some CEOs that aren't effective when they're doing a presentation for shareholders or something like that, when they're not effective, it's really just information, and information has no value until someone's owned it or engaged what that means to them. So you can simply ask questions. So often you notice what I will do in my presentations, I'll ask questions like, does that make sense? Or do you agree with this, yes or no? In other words, it's not my role as an educator to teach, to impose my thoughts, my beliefs, my thinking on someone else. My role as a communicator is to challenge people to think for themselves. So that way they own that, whether they agree with this or not. Is that true, for instance? And then people can say, well, is it true? If it's true for them, they can agree with that. If it's not for them, it's not. In other words, so the idea of being unattached, but you're asking those questions. Who agrees with that? And you can put your hand up. And for instance, like that, and people can agree. So what you're now doing is you're engaging the audience. You're engaging them to be thinking for themselves and to own what you're talking about. So you're challenging them to think. So that way, because the process of learning as a communicator and educator, you are educating. So to do that and to get people engaged, you need to ask questions. Making sense? So what you can do, in a moment we'll go through what you can do before a presentation and preparing it, but you should actually look at, and if you go and look at some outstanding communicators, you could actually study their model, their presentation, and you'll find, for instance, if you went to who's been to an Anthony Robbins event, who's had the chance to go to Tony? Now, outstanding communicator. Now, if you go through his event and break down the syntax of what he's saying, the two predominant things you'll see all weekend over a 4-day weekend with Tony is that all he's doing all weekend is what two things? He's sharing stories and he's asking questions. He would ask maybe 1,000 questions over the course of those 4 days. And the power of those questions. And share a lot of stories. Stories about his own life and stories about third parties. Making sense? It's predominantly, so the majority of your presentation should really be about sharing stories to relate to people, so they can also relate to yourself, your own stories. And you look at a lot of effective communicators, they'll share stories about themselves, so people will realize that they're just normal or down to earth, they can relate to that, so they're coming across real. But certainly third-party stories I talked about, but asking questions. Okay, questions are very powerful, because questions engage you to think. So I want you to think about that. Make sense? Okay, so what I might do is I'm going to jump to the syntax, and we're going to walk through the syntax first, and then I'm going to add more things at the end of that will make a lot of sense. So I'm going to jump to the syntax, and then we'll come back and do what we would do before a presentation. Okay, so let's go through the syntax of a presentation, and then we'll come back and say, okay, before you start a presentation, what do you have to do? Prepare beforehand, etc. Make sense? So. Okay, so the blueprint of the syntax of a presentation. So this is how you can document a whole presentation. So if you're presenting, one of the best things to do is, it depends on the situation. Sometimes you might be presenting at work in a group setting. Sometimes you may be running your own seminar, etc. It depends in the context of it. But generally by having an MC to introduce you is always ideal. Because an MC can give you third-party credibility. They can tell the audience a little bit about you, who you are, so the audience will then know who you are. Because now it's different if you're speaking to an audience that already knows you. That's what we call, jot this down, a warm audience. So a warm audience is an audience that already has some prior relationship to you. They know who you are, so you don't need so much the edification process or the introduction because they know who you are. But for many of you who are doing presentations, you'll be doing it to a cold audience. A cold audience is they don't know who you are, and some of them may not particularly care who you are. Okay. So the first process of the presentation is an MC is just someone that's going to introduce you. Okay, and their introduction should highlight who you are, your credibility on the topic or whatever you're going to be talking about. Making sense? Because it's much harder to edify yourself when it's much easier for someone else to edify you. Making sense? Okay. Now, when you're first starting speaking, you might go, well, you might think that you don't have any credibility on a topic, and so jot this word down. It's called posture. Posture, and it's so critical. This is, I guess, the frame of reference that you must see yourself through. So it depends, obviously, what topic you're talking about, but I'm going to suggest that ideally you're going to be talking about something you're passionate about and something that you believe in and something that ideally you have knowledge about. But it doesn't matter what it is, your credibility comes from, it could be some simple things. Okay? For instance, when I was first asked to start speaking on different topics, one of the things was I eliminated a lot of debt. When I was in a lot of debt, I'd learned how to eliminate a lot of debt in a very short period of time, and people wanted to know how to do that. So, for instance, my credibility on that topic was because I had a story, this is what had happened to me, and this is how I eliminated that debt rapidly. And I was teaching people as a strategy, as one strategy is how to eliminate debt. So I could have the credibility on that is because it's something that I'd actually gone through and I'd been very effective at producing a result to get rid of a lot of debt in a short period of time, and that's something the audience wanted to know about. Does that make sense? So I was just focused on that particular thing. Okay? So I felt comfortable and passionate about that because I knew the pain it caused me And I believed that if I could share how I would learn how to eliminate that debt with someone else, that would benefit them. So I believed in that. I was passionate about it, and I could speak effectively off the top of my head because I had the expertise, because I had a personal experience, I had the credibility because I'd produced that result on that thing. Who's following what I'm saying? Okay, so you don't have to be a guru. You just have to be, if you're talking about how to raise a healthy pet, okay, your credibility might be you have a healthy pet and you have a certain expertise in how you went about having that healthy pet. Okay, and you have a great cozy relationship with your pet and how other people can have that too, and you're passionate about that and you believe in that, and you know the audience that's there wants to know about that, for instance, then you can see there, then you can have an effective presentation on how to have a healthy pet. Making sense? So it's really irrelevant to the topic. Now, if you're talking about something that the audience has no interest in, then you can see how you start to have some challenges. So you must be matched to the audience. Okay. Now, generally, your audience, you'll be matched to an audience, because why would you be invited to speak, or why would you be speaking about something that has no relationship to the audience? But in saying that, sometimes the audience may have a benefit for what you have to hear, but they don't yet recognize that. And we'll talk about that in just a moment, how you go about framing the audience so they actually know what you're going to talk about up front. Make sense? So ideally, in a presentation, you'll have someone that will edify you. So it might even be in a company situation where you might be introduced as the senior sales manager, and he's here to share with you how to increase your sales because he's run one of the most successful sales teams in this part of the company, as an example. That's an edification. Therefore, the audience knows why you're there, etc., and you have some credibility. Because otherwise, if it's a cold audience, people might be sitting there with their arms folded, for instance, and like, well, why should I listen to him, or why should I listen to her? People are thinking, jot this down, what's in it for me? You're flicking through the TV channels, you're looking for something, what channel are you going to watch? Well, what's in it for me? Why should I watch Sex and the City? Okay, what's in it for me? Okay, nothing. So I turn the channel and go to the news station, okay? So that's why on the TV channels, they will have headlines. Those short grabs, 6 o'clock news, Channel 9, breaking news, blah, blah, blah. It's a headline. What they're trying to get you is to tell you right up front why you should tune in and listen, why you should tune in and watch. Does that make sense? So which is the next step, is what we're going to look at in just a moment. So when you start your presentation, you will be doing an intro. Okay? So an introduction, when you first stand up and start talking to the audience, you'll quickly introduce yourself. Generally, that'll be obviously saying what your name is, who you represent, depending on the syntax of the presentation. Then the third step, and we'll come back into some depth over these in a moment. So basically, we're going through step-by-step process of delivering a presentation to an audience. The third step is what I like to do, and I think is important, is especially, it doesn't matter what audience you're talking to, is often acknowledge and respect what you respect or can acknowledge about the audience. For instance, if you're a senior sales manager and you're being asked to share your strategies of how your office or your team in, let's say you're in another state, has been working really well, and share that knowledge with this state, say in Victoria as an example, then you could obviously introduce yourself and just say, I'm such and such, I'm senior sales manager in Queensland, and I've been asked to come and share with you some ideas that may be of benefit to you. I just want to firstly say, look, I really just want to acknowledge each and every one of you. I know how challenging it can be out there in the current global credit crisis and the tough economic times, and I just want to take my hat off to you for your dedication and commitment, for putting in the time and effort to look at how you can improve results. I also respect that some of you in the room might already be outstanding salespeople, and perhaps even outperforming some of my team or even some of my results. I respect you for that. I also understand some of you in the room may be just starting out and looking for a lot of ideas. So I'm just here not just to share things that have been benefit to myself and my team that I believe can be of benefit to you. And that's where I'm coming from. So you see the concept there? So you're coming from you're developing a rapport with the audience, you're respecting them for who they are, because especially imagine in a group like that as an example, there's someone in the back of the room who's a top-notch, Top Gun salesperson, they're going to be there like, why should I listen to this person? But if you respect them and acknowledge them and acknowledge everyone in the room for the different areas, then you're almost asking for permission to share with you. And you're also coming from a position saying, look, I've got some things that may be a benefit to you. They certainly helped myself. They certainly helped other people. If you'd like to, for instance, what I would do, who here would like to be able to increase their sales by 25% by working 50% less? You ask that question. See how I've asked the question. Does that now engage people? Because they're going, would I like to increase my sales by 25% by working 50% less? Yes. So that's the next step we're going to go into. So you acknowledge, you respect the audience. The next step, what we're doing is pre-frames. And the best way to pre-frame is to ask a question. What I just did then, if I was in a senior sales manager role, is I asked the question, who here would like to be able to increase your sales by 25% by working 50% less? That's what we call a pre-frame. It's a news headline. It's a headline telling people why you should watch the 6 o'clock news. Today Tonight do this all the time, don't they? And current affairs. Tune in for Today Tonight and you're going to learn 6 easy ways to slash your credit card bill. Don't miss it. So they're telling you right up front, they're pre-framing you right up front why you should listen. Make sense? Out of any presentation, this is certainly one of the most important parts of a presentation. If you forget other things, just don't forget this. If you do not pre-frame your audience, they will be sitting there for your presentation in the back of their minds thinking, why should I listen? What's in it for me? Making sense? I know some of you are busy writing. So I pre-frame, jot this down, a pre-frame is a headline. And you should pre-frame everything that you do. You're talking to your children, you want to pre-frame a benefit, why they should listen to you. You want your spouse to marry you, you should pre-frame them what's in it for them. If you want people to listen to you, you should basically what you tell them is the headline right up front, what's in it for them. Now, the best way to pre-frame, as I prefer, is to ask questions because you engage straight away. So whatever topic it is, so if I have to speak, now the difficult thing, if I'm speaking on a topic that I know, I'm passionate about, the easiest things to talk about. And I'll go through that as far as notes and PowerPoints and things like that in a moment. But if it's something you're passionate about, you will find that you can talk a lot longer. A lot of people are, what if I run out of things to say? Okay, now the women in the room don't have to worry about that, okay? Women speak on average about 13,000 words a day to men about 4,000 words a day. So women are natural public speakers. So they generally will not run out of things to say. But if you're speaking on a topic that you're passionate about, it will just flow. So the audience will appreciate that when you're in the zone. I'm very fortunate if I'm a very creative person, so I get on a topic, I can just speak. I can speak for 4 days non-stop. Okay, and probably go longer because I've got so much things I'm excited about. I'm speaking on a topic that I'm interested in. Flows, piece of cake. If I have to be invited to do a presentation that I haven't done before or talk to an audience that doesn't know me, then you need a lot more of these skills. And many of you will go into terrains like that in the beginning where you're dealing with a cold audience. You're a little bit uncertain about your credibility or you're not really as confident, and that it can be far more challenging. So that's where these skills and this blueprint and syntax are so critical. By applying those things and remembering these things, then it puts you in a much stronger position to be effective. And it can take away a lot of that fear as we go through this. And then you can relax and really enjoy it. Okay? So pre-frames, what I will do before any presentation, if I'm creating a brand new presentation, I will create what the pre-frames, the main things I'll spend time on. What's 3 or 4 pre-frames that will be a benefit of why you should listen. Okay, if I said to you, who here would like to learn a skill today that can help you make a 6-figure or 7-figure income? 6 figures being 100,000 plus, or 7-figure being $1 million plus income. Who here would be interested in learning a skill that could help you do that today? Does it make sense? Is that a good pre-frame? Has it told you clearly why you should listen? And you're like, yeah, I want to learn that skill. Okay, so that who here would like to learn how not just to be a typical public speaker, but become an outstanding communicator that sets you apart from the rest? Who would like to know how to learn that today? It's another pre-frame. So it's a headline up front, what people are going to learn for that day. It's basically basically communicating, saying, what's in it for you? This is what's in it for you. This is why you should listen. But then the next step I'll go into in just a moment. So you're given the benefit up front, and then the next step is very critical. So I've been invited sometimes to speak for different audiences and things. Like I remember once I was invited to speak for Rotary in a small country town. And I was invited by my mother. She organised it. My mother emceed me. She did a wonderful intro. But I'm talking to a very different audience. So for that, I have to think beforehand, what's a good pre-frame for them? What can I impart to them that might be a benefit to them, etc. So that's a different domain and a different audience that can be much more challenging. So that's where you go back into these processes, know your audience, for instance. I'm going to look at that in a moment, but you need to know your audience beforehand, who you're going to be speaking to. What are they after? What are they interested in? Because you need to match up a pre-frame that's going to benefit them. Okay? So otherwise, it's going to be a mismatch. Okay. But generally, you control who you're going to be speaking to. Generally, you'll do that homework, you'll know. So it's going to vary on the syntax. So we'll come back to that in a moment. Does making sense so far as the benefit of a pre-frame? If this is all you get out of today, you go out and do a presentation and you create pre-frames, then you'll be 10 times more effective. Because you'll tell people right up front why they should listen to you. And they will listen to you if you have good pre-frames. Okay. And what's the best way to do a pre-frame is to ask a what? Ask a question or a series of questions. So for most presentations I will have at least 3 or 4 pre-frames. I'll even have them jot it down. Okay? Because I'm thinking, what's the key benefits of the particular program? Okay? So for instance, a pre-frame, who was here on Saturday? The Time Rich program. Okay, so a pre-frame for the Time Rich program, brand new program, never delivered it before. So one of the key pre-frames of that is, who here would like to have a millionaire's lifestyle in less than 12 months without even having to become a millionaire? Who would like to have that, for instance? That's a pre-frame. Okay, and it's up in a nutshell. It tells people right up front in a short statement what the program's about, what the benefit is, and why you should listen. Okay. Where if you don't have effective pre-frame, it could take you hours trying to explain to someone what the hell you're going to talk about. Who's ever been excited about something and then you try to tell your friends about it, but then it's like they haven't quite got the impact or impression what you're trying to talk about? Who's ever had that experience? And it can be so frustrating. That's why pre-frames are a concise way to get to the point. They get straight to the bottom line of what's in it for me. And that opens someone up to go, aha, that sounds interesting. Okay, very effective form of communication, the most effective. So pre-frames are everything. If that's all you get out of today, is to know how to pre-frame, and what you should be doing tonight, tomorrow, any meeting you have to have, or anything, any form of marketing should all be pre-frames. Headlines on an email you're going to send to someone, subject header. The pre-frame is what's in it for them. Okay, you tell them right up front. It's like a headline. Why you should watch the 6 o'clock news. Watch the news tonight, and you'll see them doing it all the time. The bites, the grabs throughout the day to get you the major headlines. Watch the 6 o'clock news, or watch Today Tonight. They're doing it to you all the time. Okay. So in this process, basically you're telling your audience what you're going to tell them. It whets their appetite. You tell them what your goals are for them, and tell them the reward for listening to you. Effectively, that's what a pre-frame's doing. What's in it for them? This is what you're going to get out of today. Therefore, that's why it's worth your effort to listen. Make sense? So, next step. Once again, a very critical step. This syntax, you do not want to lose this syntax. This is going to be, and when you get out there and do presentations, if you forget one of these steps and it's not quite working, you'll come back and go, aha, I missed one of the steps. This is the jigsaw. Put them all together, and your presentations will be 10 times better. Miss one, and then the recipe's not quite right, but it'll still be effective. If you only get pre-frames right and forget the next step, you still have a good presentation, but not as good as this. So immediately after I pre-frame an audience, the next step is to challenge the audience. So the pre-frame is telling them what's in it for them. The challenge is to say, this is what I need from you, effectively. Making sense? What's in it for them as a pre-frame? This is what I need from you, is the challenge. So I've put some examples there for you. So the challenge entices the audience to take action. Jot all that down for those who can see. We'll talk about the use of PowerPoints in a moment, etc. I generally don't use PowerPoints for presentations. Very rarely will I use a PowerPoint. Okay. Okay, so what I would write down for challenge, here's add some extra notes to this. The challenge is like the pre-frame is what's in it for them. The challenge is this is what I need from you, the audience. This is what I need from you. I'm willing to give you this, but this is what I need from you to make this deal work. That's in essence of what you're saying. And the way you're going to say that, as an example there, I've said, I'm willing to share with you a lot of information that made a big difference in my life today. However, it's a two-way street. I'm willing to give you as much as I possibly can, all my expertise, all my knowledge, which have made a massive difference to my life and the life of others I believe will make a significant impact and difference to you. However, here's what I need from you. I need you, one, to have an open mind. Okay, because you know people have a closed mind often. I challenge you to have an open mind. Two, I challenge, these are just examples of challenge. I challenge you to take lots of notes. That's another example. Because you want people to get the most out of it, so you challenge them to do that. I challenge you to physically engage. If I ask you a question, yell out the answer, yes or no, or do you agree with that? That's another challenge. I challenge you, for instance, I often challenge people to, when I'm talking about wealth topics, to consider giving 10% of what they make to charity. That's another challenge. Okay, so you're asking permission, is that okay? So you can create, so what you're doing in your preparation, you create your pre-frames and you're gonna write down your challenges. What are you gonna challenge the audience on? Does it make sense? Because what you're saying is that here's what I'm willing to give you. It's just like when you are bribing your children. In other words, telling them what they're going to get, but here's what I need. You never give something without getting a concession to form a negotiation. Because if you give something away for free and you don't get a concession, then people don't value it. But if you get a concession, then people will value it. Make sense? So the pre-frame is what you're going to give them. The challenge is what you need from them as an audience to make it work. Because if you're an educator or communicator and want to get people into action, then you need to challenge them to take action. You need to challenge them to take as many notes as possible and get the most out of this. Because your goal is to impact them to get the most out of it, true? So these are different challenges that you can have. Challenge to keep an open mind is a good one, because when you're talking to many audiences, you're talking to human nature is to be closed-minded and tend to be negative. So you're challenging to keep an open mind. You also challenge that way people in the audience. Some people might think they know more than you, which is fine. That's where you cover the acknowledge and respect. And maybe people in the audience that know more than you, respect them for that. You're not here to be like, say you know it all. You just tell them right up front. These are things that benefit me. I don't, not saying that to impress you or impress upon you. I know this amount. I'm happy to share that. No, I respect that. Many of you may have had outstanding results in these areas, even greater than myself. That's okay. I just want to share with you. So I challenge you. So you're challenged to keep a very open mind, because that will keep them more interested, more prepared to listen. They'll also respect you more. You're not just going to give away information, you're going to get them to participate. And you're really asking for their permission. Is this making sense so far? Who's getting value already? Understanding this, this process makes it so much simpler. You can go out there once we complete all this with preparation. You have something to fall back on, and you have the bits of the jigsaw. Now, this syntax, has been developed, over years and years of making it more and more precise. You're basically fast-tracking how to be an outstanding communicator. I mean, if you think if you want to develop a public speaking career, this is literally worth hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of dollars in income to you. Why? Because so few people know how to do this. Okay, it's a rare skill. And in society, you're rewarded based on how few people can do what you do. Does it make sense? You think about your career you're in right now, your income is determined how many other people can do that. The more people that can do it, the less income you get. The less people that can do what you do, the more income you get. Make sense? In correlation to the demand for that product or service or what you do. For instance, let me give you an example. If you're, why do neurosurgeons get paid more than garbage collectors in capitalist society? Because neurosurgeons, is there fewer neurosurgeons? Because it's harder to be a neurosurgeon. A neurosurgeon, so a garbage collector can't complain and say, well, it's not fair that a neurosurgeon's making $400,000 or $500,000 a year and I'm only making $45,000 a year, as an example. They can't complain. Why? Because the neurosurgeon spent maybe 6 years at university, they've had to do prac, they've had to develop special skills, they've had to go in and have this ability to launch a career, and there's a lot less people that can do that, so they'll get paid more because there's a big demand for what they can do. Make sense? Where a garbage collector, effectively anyone can be a garbage collector. True? So there's heaps of people can do it, so the salaries are low because if they don't want to do it for $45,000, doesn't matter because someone else gladly will. Making sense? So as a public speaking skill, you have a skill that very few people have. So therefore, public speakers can earn a large amount of money. They can earn millions and millions of dollars a year because they have the ability to do something very few people have. Or even as that skill as an entrepreneur or in your corporate career, because you have that skill that can give you a competitive advantage over other people in the company or other companies, because you can impart a idea, concept, a knowledge about a product or service, etc., which can mean you can do more deals, generate more clients, etc., where other people can't. So you think about that, how valuable this skill is. There's very few skills other than marketing that can earn you such a large income. Who's excited by that, by the way? And that's what you're learning today. So, and when I was first learning this, I had no idea of the impact and the power that this information will once play in my life in a later date. Okay, so I was very grateful to learn this and very lucky to learn this because this hasn't been taught to many people before. Making sense? Okay, so does anyone have any questions at this point in time? Any questions so far? Or are you all pretty much understanding it, flowing with it? Okay, let's continue through the full syntax, then we'll take some questions and then we'll come back to what you do before you start a presentation. So this is your blueprint for doing a presentation, so you're all prepared for that, and then a couple other things we'll go through. Okay, so recap on this so far. You started, the MC's edified you, introduced you, you've introduced yourself, who you are, what you're representing, okay? You've acknowledged and respected the audience. You pre-framed what's in it for them, basically, 2 or 3 pre-frames of what you're going to learn today, what your presentation's about, this is what's in it for you. Then you've challenged your audience, so this is what I'm going to give to you, but this is what I need from you. I really need today to be able to help you as much as possible. I really need you to keep an open mind. I really need you to take lots of notes so you can get the most out of this, okay? And then you can challenge it. So it's up to you. Whether you use this or not makes no difference to me, but I just want you to get the benefit if you're committed to learning how to, generate a 6 or 7 figure income. So you're tying it back to what's in it for them. Making sense? So the next step, what you do, so now in a presentation, these pre-frames and challenges, as a timeline, just jot down a timeline here. This may be, you may be up to challenge your audience within the first 3, 4, 5, 10 minutes of your presentation. So this, what we've gone through so far, is effectively the first 5, 10 minutes of your presentation. As you become more skilled at this, that the challenge and the pre-frames all sort of tie in and they might expand further, okay? So some presentations, this might extend for me up to 20, 30, 40 minutes into the presentation. But that's only because I've been doing it for so long and it's unconscious competence. Generally, you'll be going through this in 5 or 10 minutes. Because the first, let me ask you this question. What do you think is the hardest part of a presentation? The last 5 minutes or the first 5 minutes when you first get up there? First 5 minutes is the most difficult part of the presentation because you're nervous, you have to break the ice, and you have to take charge of the room. This gives you ability to do that in the first 5, 10 minutes. And that's all you have to focus on then. So when you're going up there, you don't have to worry about, what if I run out of things to say? What if I forget about this? That internal dialogue is not effective because you need to be present. And once you go into that, then you're not there for the audience. The audience can see that, okay? And if you're nervous, it makes the audience nervous. Or if you're embarrassed, it makes them embarrassed, okay? If you're confident, you're relaxed, makes them relaxed. You set the energy for the room. So if you're laid back, having fun, joking, etc., that will create that effect with the audience. If you're nervous and worry about this, the audience will start to, some of them start feeling for you, some will think that they'll make fun of you or whatever because you're reflecting that. So it's really about you taking charge, and this gives you the blueprint to take charge. So the next step, and this happens within, as I said, the first 5 to 10 minutes you're up to this point. This is a simple process. Step number 6 is interaction. This will break the ice. This will get the hard part out of the way in 5 minutes, and then you own the audience once you do this. So interaction. Why is this critical? Is when you first start a presentation, the audience it's like you have to break the ice. So the sooner you can get to interaction, the better. So you've pre-framed, you've challenged the audience. It might take you 5 minutes. In your first presentations, you might be doing it in 3 minutes because you want to get to this point as quickly as possible. So then you challenge the audience, then you can simple things. You can, okay, everyone stand up, as an example. That's what I would do. And if you do that, you're taking charge of the audience. You get them to stand up. These are simple things you do. Here's what I want you to do. Turn to 3 or 4 people around you, say your name, where you're from, what do you do, or why are you here today? What do you want to get out of today? In other words, you're getting the audience involved and get them to talk to each other. Once they talk to each other, you might let them do that for a few minutes. The audience, everyone's now relaxed. Because when people first come into a room, remember, they may not know other people in the room. So there's this like the ice in the room, effectively. What you're doing is warming the room up, getting people to interact. People interact, start talking, etc. Then everyone relaxes and the room is relaxed. Then you're ready, you can now present. Because everyone knows each other. It's like the room's become warm, it's become friendly. Who's following what I'm saying here? Okay. This, if you do this, it'll take all the pressure off your presentation. Don't do this, and then you've got to be going there for an hour or 2 while the room is cold, effectively, and trying to reach people in a cold room. Very hard to do. With this, within 3, 4, 5 minutes, you own the room. And then everyone's friends, and then they're open to listening to what you have to say. If you pre-frame them clearly, you've challenged them, and you've got them to interact. If that, you remember those 3 things, you will find public speaking will turn from a fearful, scary thing to something that's quite simple, quite enjoyable, and much easier to do. Who's excited by that? Okay, this will just make your life so much easier. So interaction. So within the first 5 minutes. So sometimes it depends on the setting, whether you get people to stand up or not. But just get people at least to talk to the person next to them. Just breaks the ice, gets them talking, and now you own the audience. Most of your hard work is now done in the first 5 minutes. Now people are relaxed, they're ready to learn. The next step, what you would go into, is just continue on from this. So, okay, so number 7, you'll now get into, once people finish talking to each other, you now get into the body of your presentation. Okay, the body of the presentation. So, what I would do straight away is share your story. Just briefly. So in this part, what you're doing is you're first of all establishing your credibility. So you've challenged the audience, you've got the interaction, you will tell people, okay, why should they listen to you, your story? In other words, you tell them right up front, what have you got that you can share with them? You establish your credibility. And this then leads into the actual content, the body of your presentation. We should have preparation for this, should have your notes for this, and this part's much easier. Far easier than trying to see the PowerPoint. Now, what I said is, so I've got points there, get to the point, genuine, real, be ethical, honest, joke about things you're not good at, etc. So you want to be, the more relaxed you are, now it's easy saying that when you're a professional speaker, you've done it time and time again, it's easy to be relaxed. But the more relaxed you can be, the more effective you'll be. You can use humor to a degree. But if you're not generally using humor, don't try and make up jokes and things like that. I wouldn't use humor to make up jokes. That can be quite risky unless you're very good at that. But you can just use humor by taking, having a go at yourself, basically. I'm not very good at that or whatever. Just being real and very down to earth. People really respect people that are just themselves. And the challenge of a lot of people want to speak is that they want to create a good impression, so they're trying to create a facade and they're not being them. The most effective speakers are people that are real, they're just being themselves. And people relate to that. People want to see that authenticity. They want to see the real person. Okay? If you come across with that, you can be relaxed, etc. So part of that will come from your posture, your frame of reference. If you're coming from a position wanting to please everyone in the audience and want everyone to love you or everyone to like you, then you're in a position of failure. Because let's face it, no matter how popular you are as a person, you have the greatest personality on the planet, the greatest looks. Is everyone going to like you, yes or no? No, they're going to have their own judgments, etc. So your job is not to have everyone like you. Your job is you should have a set outcome for your presentation. What is that outcome? And we'll go through that before up front. What is your outcome? What is your agenda? What do you want to accomplish by that 5 minute, half an hour, 2 hour, 4 day presentation? You want to have a clear outcome about that. That's your goal, what you're focused on. Obviously, you want to have rapport with the audience, but you're not there to please necessarily and have everyone like you. Okay? But the more relaxed you are and the more unattached you are, you're just here to, you know what you got to share is of value. You know if people are open-minded, they're going to get value out of that. And you're passionate about it and you're willing to go that extra distance and put everything into it on the condition that they're prepared to be open-minded, prepared to take notes, prepared to do what it takes to get the most out of it. That's pretty much the deal you're telling people right up front. So after the interaction, I will usually then, depends on the audience. If the audience doesn't know me, I'll spend more time sharing my story and my credibility, okay? And I'll tell them often right up front what gives me the right to speak on this particular subject. Because what you're doing now, jot this word down, is preempting. A good communicator is almost a mind reader. You're actually reading, and if you get good at this, I don't know whether you believe in channeling or picking up on energies. As a communicator, especially women will be more intuitive at this, as speakers you'll probably pick up on a lot as well, is that in an audience you will start to become, if you do this a lot, you become a mind reader. You'll actually be able to sense what people are feeling and thinking, and you can pick it up. It becomes quite amazing. I've been in audiences where you might have 500 people and you can pick 1 or 2 people that might be negative and you can almost hear their thoughts and you hear what they're thinking, and by that power of that mind reading, or however that works, whatever you believe in, but you can sense that if you get very good at this. And when you can sense that, you can then, you're preempting and you're mind reading. So you're talking directly to their subconscious and it'll blow people away. Because if you sense that, you can incorporate that into your presentation. So you're speaking almost directly to them, but by a story or third party, and it makes them really realize, because you're sensing the energy. Does that make sense? Now, that's something you're probably not going to develop straight away, but that's something that, even if you're not a mind reader, you're saying, Jamie, it's all right. You're saying now I have to be a mind reader to be a public speaker. You didn't mention anything about that, okay? But you can become a mind reader by preempting anyhow. You can guess what people are going to be thinking. So even if you're not a mind reader, even if you're not sensing and tuned in with the feelings or the energy in the room, you can guess pretty much. So what I mean by that, you're preempting. So you can be preempting that some people in the audience are probably going to be thinking, why should I listen to this person anyhow? I'd rather be somewhere else today. You know, the babysitters are probably not doing their job. You know, people are thinking about all these things while they're in the audience. Oh my God, I'm missing out on work today. Or, you know, how will this apply for me? Or this probably won't even be any good to me, waste of my time. People are going through all these different thoughts. So you can preempt a lot of that, okay? And you can mind read, then you'll start picking up on that energy, etc. So you can bring those people into the fold. And that's where, by challenging the audience up front, you would have taken care of most of that anyhow. But now you're establishing your credibility. Now, of course, if you're speaking to people that already know you and they know your credibility, you don't have to spend much time on your story. If they don't, you need to quickly establish what gives you the right to speak on this subject. That's pretty much, jot that down. What gives you the right to speak on this subject? Why are you going to tell them that? Because in the back of their mind, they're going to be thinking that. I was in a seminar about 2 years ago in Texas. One of the cities in Texas is a wealth seminar, and I didn't get a lot of value out of it. This guy was supposed to be fantastic, and also because I'm a promoter, I'm always looking for talent, and some people said, you want to listen to this guy, you might want to bring him to Australia, etc. And I got very little out of the seminar, because why I'm sitting there, and I might be a harsh judge because I'm a speaker as well, but no, I like to learn. I'm always very open-minded, you know, so I'm looking for different things. But I sat there the whole presentation thinking, why should I listen to this guy? Not being rude, I'm thinking to myself, I'm trying to say, you know, I need to know why I should listen to him. And he never addressed that up front. And so I'm thinking there, you know, what credibility does he have? I mean, he mentioned he owns some car washes, but, you know, I'm not getting, you know, why I should, you know, if I knew clearly up front, if he had credibility, so I was questioning his credibility. Because I'm going to listen to a guy that I want to know, has he produced results and is there a benefit from that? So because he never made that clear, I got very little value out of his presentation. If he had said that, I've listed companies and worth $1 billion and I've done this and that, and clearly established his credibility, I could go, I'm going to listen to this guy. He's obviously done some pretty amazing things, and I could actually then learn from that. Does that make sense? Because he hadn't established that, I'm trying to think, well, what's he really done? What can I learn from this guy? Has he done anything that is going to be a benefit to me? Who's following what I'm saying there? Okay, so that's when you say, well, Jimmy, what if I haven't actually, or present, I don't actually have a lot of credibility? You start with whatever credibility you have. There's something that, whatever topic you're talking about, there's something that you have been good at, okay? Or something you've succeeded at to a certain level, and just be honest about that. So if it might be something, let's say you're doing a presentation on a product or service that you're selling. Your credibility could be as simply as, one, you've achieved a certain result, maybe of sales, or the result might be, this product, I've used this product and I think it's fantastic. This is what it's done for me. I was skeptical in the beginning. I've heard all the people say, yeah, it's really good. I'm thinking, yeah, as if I've heard that about a lot of products, but it wasn't until what I found is that when I started to use it, I was like, my God, this is actually as good as they say it is. And I started using this, is what I noticed, this is what improved my performance, this happened here, etc., etc. And now I'm just happy to tell anyone about it because I think it's great. And if you don't have it, you're missing out on something. Who's following what I'm saying here? So now you're just established, your credibility might be just you're a user of a product and you believe in it and you're sharing that with others. As simple as that. Making sense? So you've got to work out, now it's going to vary depending on what you're talking about. Okay, so now next step, jot this down. Number 8 is you're connecting with the audience. You're now delivering the content of your presentation. The content of your presentation. Would you like me to share one little skill with you that will make your presentation so much easier to do? Would you like that? Okay. It's on the PowerPoint there. Simple thing. Teach something, give the audience a break, tell them to stop, turn the person next to you and take questions as a speaker. So you'll notice what I do in my presentation. It's up to you whether you do this, but many presenters I have that I've seen that don't do this, they really lose the audience. We're like children, we can only pay attention for so long. Some presenters you might be interested in, but they don't give you a break. They go for 2 hours, non-stop giving you information, and you're like, you can't keep up, you just need a break. So I teach people from a psychology viewpoint. So what you can do, you might teach for 20 minutes. Teach for 20 minutes, have the person, turn the person next to you, just teach the person next to you what I've just taught you, and then I'll take questions. Make sense? If you do this in your presentation, it'll break it up. It'll give you time to have a break. You can go and check your notes, see what you've got to cover next. And it gives people a chance to digest and engage. Write faster. So as you write that, I want you to understand, what I'm covering there. So obviously you have this to go back to, but these finer distinctions, you're going to have to practice them. But when you do a presentation, then be your review and go back and coach yourself. And you look at these steps and go, I forgot the interaction. I forgot the get them to turn the person next to you and break up the presentation. And then you go, next time I can remember that, and you'll start to do it. And then once you start to do it, it becomes a habit and it's unconscious competence. Okay, so now for every presentation, I don't have to sit down and go, I've got to remember these 8 steps. I hope I don't forget any. I just automatically do it. Occasionally I might forget something, but generally it's just a habit. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm teaching for 20 minutes, say, or 15 minutes. I'm teaching X amount of content, but I'm not going to go for an hour because people can only take so much in. I want them to learn. I just don't want them to be information. They go away, got information, but don't do anything with it. I mean, that's what many presentations are like, and it's not valuable. So what I'm doing is I teach something and you see what I do in the presentation. Here's what I want you to do. Turn the person next to you. Teach them what I've just taught you. Then the other person teach back what you've taught, and then I'll walk around the room and see who hasn't been listening. Something to that effect. Or then I'll take questions after that. Because what you don't want is someone putting their hand up, asking a question in the middle of your presentation. Because now if you accept that question, you're giving control back to the audience. And if you do that once, then throughout the whole audience, people will be asking questions and they're in control. You as the speaker control the audience. If you lose control, you've lost your posture. So if someone wants to ask a question and questions are good, I'll simply say, if I see someone put their hand up, I'll say, I'll take questions in a moment, or I'll take questions at the end. Let me just teach this first, and then I'll open up for questions. So I'll teach something, say, turn to the person next to you, teach the person what I've just taught, the other person teach back what they've just thought they've taught, and then I'll take some questions, as an example. That gives them 2 or 3 minutes. The audience can be talking to each other. What they're now doing is, this is also a very valuable teaching skill. The way that we learn, the best way to learn is to teach. Do you realize that? It's the most effective way to learn, because at school we're sitting there passively taking notes, but at school we're not really learning, we're memorizing. And most things you'll learn at school you forgot by now, is it true? Most exams you sat for, if you had to resit the exam 12 months later without studying, you'd fail. Because you haven't learnt it. It's been memorized and not effective. So that is not learning. What is learning? If I teach you something, then I get you to teach it to the person next to you, your brain has to go, shit, I should have been listening better. Okay, I better check my notes. Or you got to go, you have to now, your brain has to now take that and communicate that. You're now communicating, and you have to now make sense of it. And you attempt to communicate it. And by doing that, you'll start to learn better, and the other person can teach back things how they've learned, and then you can learn off them as well. But it's becoming part of you. You're actually learning. It's into your nervous system, and you're going to get a much better experience from that. It's embedded into you. Far more effective method of educating, okay? And you'll see that at any of our seminars that certainly I will do that. But you'll notice when some presenters don't do that, you're sitting there going, I wish I could get a break. You know, they go, there might be great information, you might be loving it, but it's like, there's only so much you can take in you, because you're taking some information, but you want to quickly think about, oh, how's that going to relate on, take action here. You just need that little break to let the information settle in, think about it, and then you're ready for some more. Making sense? Okay. So each of these little steps are critical, but you embed them into a presentation, it's just making your life so much easier. Because then you're teaching, you don't have to go, I've got to teach for 3 hours. It's like, you're teaching for 20 minutes. You focus on that 20 minutes. You're giving as much as you can. You're good on that, and then you go, okay, let the audience have a break. You get to sit down. You can review your notes, what you want to cover next. You can think about that, etc. Gives you a break, and gives the audience a break. Who thinks that's a very handy skill to have? Okay, and many presenters don't do that, and you'll find your audience will get so much more out of it. Okay, so let's move on. Number 9, the close. So now you're coming to the end of your presentation. You're building the audience up, you're educating, you're adding value, and it comes to the end of the presentation, your close, what you're there for. What's the end outcome you want your audience to achieve or take action with? So this will depend upon the type of the presentation. Many presentations you might be doing, you might be educating people, or you might be a selling presentation. So the outcome of a selling presentation at the end is to generate sales, for instance, if you're selling a product or service. So you're building people up. The best way to sell is to give majority content, okay, sell without selling, educate people, then you have to sell less. You'll see many selling presentations, they're all just trying to sell you something, they're not trying to educate you, there's no value in it, so they get less sales. So if you are doing a selling presentation, which in most cases you will be doing in a corporate world or even as a speaker, jot this rule down. It should be 90% content, 10% selling max. And your motto should be, the more I educate, the less I have to sell. If you educate someone about the benefits of the product or service and give them value, then they're already sold. If you've shown them what's in it for them and why it's going to improve their life, they're already sold. They already want it. Okay? So educate more. So you see how many sales presentations you go to, they just focus on features, they just focus on selling you, and it's like, well, what's in it for me? If they just stop trying to sell you and just tell you what's in it for you, here's the benefits, here's the results, this is why I'm excited about it, then people can make their decision. Okay? Now, sometimes you may not be selling a product or service, but you always will be selling. You're selling an idea, maybe. You're selling an idea, you just want to get your team more committed to taking action. If it's a corporate presentation, you're selling something. You might be selling your idea, if you do this, this, and this, you will get a better result. I need you to get out there and work harder. You're still selling something. You're selling an idea. You're selling a concept, or you're selling a product, or you're selling a service. Anything you're doing is selling something. So my outcome for today is I'm selling an idea. I'm selling you the idea that if you have an open mind, you take lots of notes, you really put the effort into this, and you follow this syntax, that you can walk out of here and be an effective public speaker. And as a result, that'll give you a significant benefit. Does it make sense? So I'm selling you on that idea to do that. If you're willing to do that, you're going to improve what you do as far as effectiveness. Making sense? Okay. So you're delivering, so it depends on the presentation, but you have a particular outcome, and you should start your presentation beforehand. And what's the outcome you want people to achieve at the end of your presentation? So if all you know in your presentation is your outcome, you will subconsciously stick to that. You'll subconsciously stick to that because you'll be guided by that. What's my outcome for the audience? What do I want them to achieve? And that's what you really want to be clear about. And you'll stick to that. Okay? So 1 or 2 clear outcomes. So that's your close. You'll do a close. If it's a selling presentation, you'll highlight the price of your products, etc., explain the benefits of it. You might hand out an order form, etc., and you'll go through the close and you'll articulate that as much as possible. But even with the closing, which now goes more into sales and marketing, which we won't spend time on today, we'll be covering that tomorrow if you want to learn about sales and marketing. But the best way to sell, once again, is to ask questions. So you incorporate a whole close should actually be a list of particular questions intertwined into that, so you can help people get the benefit out of it and understand why they should participate. So you're selling them on the idea or concept they should take action with your product or service, etc. Okay. So even if you're selling your team on why they should implement this new strategy into the company, you're still selling them on that idea. You're still trying to get them to take action with it. Number 10 is your presentation's finished, but really your presentation hasn't finished. What you should do, here's what a mistake a lot of speakers make. They finish a presentation, they disappear. Or they think they're above the audience. You may have noticed some presenters, they think they're high and mighty, they're above the audience, they're not real, and it's very frustrating. I find that is not an effective way to be. You should love your audience, and you should make yourself available at the end of the presentation to be there where people can ask you questions. That's what I think you should do. And people appreciate that. So say, look, I'll be down the back of the room, I'll be available for X amount of minutes, feel free to come and ask me any questions. Because some people have questions they don't want to ask in front of the whole group, but they'd love to ask one-on-one. And it gives them that opportunity. Or they might just want to say hi and meet you, etc. And you're adding more value to your presentation by being there, and you're also saying to your audience, I actually do care about you, I'm not just here and I'm out of here, I'll actually stick around and help you and answer any of your questions, and you're adding more value. Making sense? So you're being real, you're being genuine, you're being at their level, and you're there to sincerely help people. And that will come through in your presentation. If you don't really give a rip and you just you don't really care and you want to get out there as quickly as possible, people will sense that, okay? And they're not going to respect you for that. Then you got to question, why would you, so the questions will be, if you have to present on something you don't really believe in, then you got to question and say, well, if I don't really believe in something, why am I presenting it? Okay, because it's not really going to come across. People will sense that. People aren't stupid. Especially in this culture, is it true? Australians have very good bullshit detectors. You want to jot that down? Okay. BS detectors. So, of course, it's natural. Don't try and BS people. People will see that in body language. They'll pick up on that. Australians have a very strong BS detectors. Okay. America, not so strong. They'll believe a lot of things. Okay. So, but in Australia and New Zealand, we're very, very clear about that. No offense to my American friends. You make sense? So that's pretty much your syntax. You have now, if you can document that, that is your blueprint for creating a presentation.